Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sylphid the Hedgehog here, and I am back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Kirby Superstar Ultra for the Nintendo DS during the course of the forms of the Great Cape Offensive mode. So, yeah, last time we have basically just gone into the first half of the Great Cape Offensive, and we managed to gather ourselves 34 treasures out of 60 of them. And today, for this particular episode, is the fact that we might able to actually just be finishing up in terms of the Great Cape Offensive, and once we're done with that, then we can pretty much guarantee to able to move on to the next game in the entirety of Kirby Superstar Ultra until specifically on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays according to the uploading schedules. So, and hopefully we'll able to actually just try to able to get ourselves, you know what I mean, the hammer ability again after the events of, you know, from ever since during the forms of a stressful time trying to able to look after it, because, dear lord, those coconuts can usually just manage to able to get rid of my copy ability straight away. But hopefully for the sake of this video, hopefully we should able to actually pass that, and especially noticeable about the fact that we could possibly potentially trying to able to go ahead and just trying to complete both areas in journey forms of the Great Cape Offensive by, you know what I mean, going through the rest of the old tower, and as well as from that, the garden area, and I think that's as far as I can say about this. So, but either way though, let's not, you know, get carried away about this too much. But either way though, today's day is of course the 8th of January today, in this case in 2021 today, and not much else to say I'm afraid, apart from the fact that, well, it wasn't until when we get to the point until likely, according to like some rumors out there about the fact that we could possibly get ourselves the first ever general Nintendo Direct during the course of, for the sake of the first month of the year, in January 2021, because usually, relatively speaking, is the fact that obviously we've already got every single Nintendo Directs during the course of January. Well, 2016 is the only exception because usually, relatively speaking, it's just the fact of the matter is though, is that, well, basically, here's how it goes. Basically, of why about the fact that the January Nintendo Direct in 2021 could potentially happening. So likely, first of all, remember the forms of back in 2017 that obviously we did got one, but only focuses on Fire Emblem and stuff like that. And also, during the course of 2018, oh, we got something different right here. We have a Koopa Shell. As opposed to the ones in the Super Nintendo version, it just calls it a Turtle Shell. So I guess they managed to able to rename so many treasures, so that seems pretty swell, I have to say. So anyways, let's see what's beyond here. Of course, we do need to let the ally just manage to able to go ahead and light up the cannon for once. And because of that though, that way it allows us to actually access to another treasure. And this is actually a reference to something related to Fire Emblem, by the way, for that particular sword. Yeah, because of that though, I just might able to be familiar with that specific stuff. But anyway. And yeah, let's grab that one up just in case if we keep on dying a lot. And yeah, you probably get, oh jeez, this part again. But thankfully, it's a little bit easier than the forms of how it does it in the Super Nintendo counterparts, because they're now able to have much more of a bigger space, even though it's a bit tricky and difficult at the same time, because you lose control of yourself like that. And yeah, I have to go all the way back. Okay, quick edit right there, because I managed able to go back into the previous part, and thankfully, unlike the ones in the Super Nintendo version, that sometimes, I swear, Kirby's momentum can get pretty slippy at times, but thankfully in the remake, it's, well, perfectly average, or to be more specifically, he doesn't slip off as much compared to the Super Nintendo version, so at least I'm glad that's been fixed, and especially noticeable with that particular bottomless pit doesn't go completely out of much or something like that, even though I know it has been a while since I actually did done some of my commentary stuff, which that might be seems the case, so And especially notable that tomorrow that Sonic is going to be able to tackle through the next board in terms of Mario Party 3, and that will have to be by the forms of, well, what else? The forms of Deep Blooper Sea. So that'll be happening until tomorrow, as far as I'm aware. And let's go ahead and save our progression right here, so that way we would be able to actually just, well, carry on our progress. So now we're done with the first part of the old tower. Now I suppose we can now move on to the second part of the forms of the old tower. So yeah, this is what I mean when it comes to the forms of how the entire stage actually builds up to be. This is the hugest segment in the whole entire Great Cave Offensive, which as far as I'm aware, because it's pretty obvious, because it's all about exploration. So if we go into this room, we need to dodge those sleeping abilities right here, because if you dare touch one, then otherwise you would be able to get pushed back by the current wind. But the reason why we're in here in the first place is because of that Earthbound reference, which appears to be Mr. Saturn. And somehow we just got a sleep ability, which it doesn't bother me at all for the sake of this part here, because we don't come across into a bottomless pit or something, which has always been a, well, quite pleasant and all that stuff. Even though there was one particular segment in, you know, Kirby's Return to Dreamland in that, I would say in the Egg Engines level, that basically is the fact that we could potentially try to able to just, well, go ahead and, well, trying to able to dodge a lot of those, you know what I mean, just dodge a lot of those, stuff, likely due to the forms of the sleep ability, so that way you don't fall down to the bottomless pit or something. So, but I digress. So there's another treasure in here, which contains an armor. Which almost reminds me of the Ghost and Goblins or something like that, but usually speaking, that's the only thing I can possibly try to reference that, despite, you know, Ghost and Goblins was the Capcom game after all. So anyways, let's go into this room, and okay, looks like we have to launch ourselves with those springs. And the reason being for that, well, first of all, let me just pick up those healing items before we continue, so just in case if we keep on getting hit, and hop onto that spring over there, and that way we get ourselves another treasure. In this case, a treasure box. And it looks like we've only got 20 more treasures to go, and that way we would be able to actually just well, fully accomplish the old tower. So, but either way though, if we head on to the left, oh god, this is a dangerous room. If you don't exit out though, then while the actual screen scrolls all the way to the right, it does show us the skull, which actually represents death. So, yeah, that seems a little bit obvious for that point. I'm pretty sure there was likely a Mario Maker stage based off from that. Whenever you manage to able to come across into a skull or something like that while the screen is constantly scrolls, then basically it's the fact that you would be able to just try to able to actually exit out for that particular point and then just, well, just, you know. I have no idea why I'm speaking so rubbish today, because, well, the thing is, though, is the fact that there's honestly not much else I can honestly try to say, apart from the fact that, while, according to some rumors out there, they're about to be saying that they'll be planning to do a first ever Nintendo Direct for the sake of the whole entire month of January, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there until, like, let's just say until when it gets to the point until likely some rumors trying to say 21st of January. I'm hoping that it is not the part of Showcase, because that has to be for later on, because I think it's about time to able to actually just to see the true first-party games for Nintendo and all that stuff, because we haven't got these since, you know what I mean, 2019 with the general Nintendo Direct, as far as you guys should probably already know. But anyways, we have to, like, fly over for this particular point, because if you somehow step onto these little, bridge, that will actually crumbles. So, yeah, just have to watch out for that. So, anyway, though, another thing I should probably explain about this, too. Oh, yeah, this actually takes us back, so let's not go there just yet, because, well, obviously we just don't feel like trying to able to go for that stuff, so even then, we'll just continue on as normal. And we'll save this for later, because we do need that specific copy ability in order to be able to get that treasure down below. Because I think it's all about the rapids, so... yeah, that's as far as I can say about it. Now, the good thing about this room here is that normally you have to give yourselves a cutter ability to able to actually cut for this rope. But, turns out you can able to use the plasma, you know, copy ability, and that way you can able to bust out this bomb, and that way, or the bomb block, that way it'll lead you to this room. So, yeah, that seems very cool for my set. Especially noticeable about the fact that, of course, you don't have to worry about backtracking between the forms of, you know, cutter and hammer. Well, there's another alternative to do that, but honestly, I think the plasma ability does manage to able to help out very easily for my part. So, anyway, so before we continue things on, we need to get ourselves our stone copy ability, and that way we can able to get ourselves another treasure. And the location for that is not that far actually, so it's usually over there, right where the bomb block is, and as soon as you activate that, while at the same time trying to utilize the stone ability, that way you can able to actually win through that little rapid water currents and all that stuff. So, yeah, everything else should be a piece of cake. So, but it wasn't until we need to find ourselves the final 2 treasures in the old tower, and because of that though, we're pretty much almost nearly at the end in the old tower before we move on to the final environment. And obviously, since we went into that room by complete accident, and because of that though, we need to backtrack for a bit. So, but it doesn't bother me at all though, because luckily, unlike the Super Nintendo version, that sometimes you do need to able to save your progress if you manage to able to go out somewhere. But thankfully in the DS remake is that obviously, since this is on the Nintendo DS of all things, basically is the fact that you can able to actually take it on the go. Assuming if you're able to charge up your Nintendo DS, or any kind of DSs for that matter. It could be either the Fat DS, or, well, I don't usually call it Fat DS or something like that, because I know it seems a little bit questionable when it comes to that particular name. But I'm just gonna call it the original Nintendo DS, the one that has like a thicker clamshells or something like that. And also the DS Lite, DSi, DSi XL, and even especially noticeable for the 3DS as well. It could be either the original 3DS or the 3DS XL, and especially noticeable with Nintendo 2DS, assuming if you're able to try to look after the Nintendo 2DS without a clamshell, new 3DS, new 3DS XL, and of course, new 2DS XL. So, geez, that's a lot of those systems you can able to obviously play this game. But anyway, let's move on to the next boss fight, which, before we do anything, let's just go ahead and do our Duo Wing copy ability fight. And the boss fight we're gonna be fighting against is... oh my gosh, it's like a chameleon. In this case, a chameleon arm. So, or Chameleo arm. So, yeah, basically all you have to do is just keep on attacking him and all that jazz, but you have to be very careful of multiple attacks, such as, for instance, these little multicolored balls that he spit out. And also is the fact that sometimes he likes to able to camouflage sometimes, and able to transport into different spots, and then sometimes you're able to actually just to trick you by almost get eaten by him with the actual simple, you know, the actual tongue of any sort. And unfortunately, my partner companion doesn't seem to do a very good job on this fight, so... but we'll deal with a final blow just about right now. And thankfully, we have basically done there. And of course, we got ourselves a maximum tomato, which is nice. And before we end this off, obviously it takes us to the highest route of the actual old tower. And because the reason why we're going here in the first place is because, well, there's going to be the final 2 treasures, as I said, during the course of this particular segment. So, oh no, 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 no. I definitely need that. Oh, please don't tell me it's going to disappear. Yep, it disappears. That's just great. But, we're not gonna leave this room, because otherwise we do need to find, the hidden door. Normally you would be able to try to light it up with the fire copy ability, But if you know what you're doing, then obviously enter that door over there like I just shown you. And that way you would be able to get yourselves, what else? Another treasure. And it looks like we've only got one more treasure left. And the last treasure in the old tower might be actually be sometimes time consuming. Because I'm gonna have to say this right about now. This is one of the trickiest treasures to get. Along with the forms of the other one that we did manage to did done. Well, it only took me 2 attempts on that. You know, with that particular dodging a lot of those Gordos while there's like water currents just trying to push you around and all that jazz. But thankfully it only took me 2 attempts. So, okay, this is the part right here. Normally, I believe that Defi has technically done this before in the Super Nintendo version. Like, he obviously utilized the jet copy ability, and then basically you have to hurry this up because there was actually a secret door over there too by activating that particular switch. And if you manage to activate the switch, well, you have to like just do a little bit of a rush kind of syndrome, because otherwise, if you went too slow, then otherwise the thing will shut off. So, such as right here. And that will actually lead us to the last treasure in the old tower, which I know the jet ability seems a little bit too difficult for my liking, and there goes my another death. Because the only thing that kind of bothers me is that the enemies do manage to respawn after when you exit off screen. And that's just usually because, like, that's what retro video games are like these days. Especially noticeable how the fact that these enemies will always respawn after death or anything else like that. So, even I know that doesn't look like it's going to be surprising to me though, so. Oh well, we'll try that again, but thankfully we actually got ourselves the wing copy ability instead. So that way we were able to do this process a bit easier. So, even in this case, we're going to have to, oh, stupid ceilings, and screw you, Cutter. Well, not Cutter from, ants though, just one of those enemies as far as you know. Or to be more specifically, Sir Kerbal, which I think that's what his name is. Oh, okay, there we go. Huh, took me a lot of tries on that front, but hey, at least we got all the treasures in the old tower now, so thank goodness for that. So, looks like I'm on the roll. Well, for the most part anyway. But anyway, let's go ahead and climb up, and, well, just go all the way down in the process as well. And, I think there's actually a door over there, so if we do full loft all the way down, then otherwise it'll cost a death. So, I'm presuming that's what that is, so. Anyways, let's go up and enter that door, and let's go ahead and go on to the left, and we can move on to the last part of, well, not so much in the minecart section just yet, until specifically whenever we're done with the garden world, which we'll point things out whenever we get into that. So, I know this video is kind of long, but I just wanted able to actually get this game, or to get the Great Cave Offensive done and finished before we move on to the next game in the lineup. So, anyways, here we are now onto the garden. And the first treasure we have in this world is gold watering can, which I think that was actually another one of those replaceable items with the, usually normally it's like winter time or something like that for the Super Nintendo version, but in here it's been replaced by gold watering can, which I'm not exactly sure what that usually referenced from, but either way though, that's all I can honestly try to say about this for the most part, so. And immediately after that though is the fact that I'm pretty sure this particular section does contain the most annoying treasure in the whole game, at least in my opinion anyway, because, well, all we have to do in this part is the fact that we do need to get a lot of emphasis on the usage on jet copy ability, and if you're trying to able to time your boosts at the right time, and basically is you have to hope for the best, trying to able to actually just to, well, just get a big boost while simply just go through the actual wind current, and it's just impossible sometimes, which I remember back in the day, that back in 2009 that is, I just somehow got a bit of a struggled time while trying to able to obtain that treasure. and the treasure in there is Katana. So, yeah, that's what I pointed out. So, and also another thing as well is that, I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this as well. Ah, really? Stupid ninja. Hey, anyway, another thing I just want to point out right away is that speaking of Nintendo 3DS, eventually until next month, that, the Nintendo 3DS will be 10 years old until next month in Japan. And as far as 2 months are concerned, for the English / the PAL version, as well as the American release of, you know, the 3DS system's release, that will be also a 10 years old release for, well, for quite some time now, which I can't even believe time itself just went flying. Especially noticeable how the fact that, well, it does have some good points for the 3DS, but some questionables like, the lack of third-party support back then, and, well, usually as far as I can honestly try to say, but some games are pretty good for the 3DS, like Mario Kart 7 has always been a good time, and also Super Mario 3D Land, and oh look, we have a Christmas tree. Despite the fact that Christmas is already over, for the sake of the worst year that we were able to actually sit through in 2020, which let's not talk about that right now because otherwise we are in a new year and things get a bit promising. So now, according to the informs of one of the commenters stating about the fact that with there's another Nintendo console that's gonna able to celebrate the console's anniversary, which one of them involves around the Nintendo 64. And he did say about the fact that it's gonna be the 26th anniversary, and I was like, I think it was actually the 25th anniversary of the Nintendo 64 release, actually, because, well, I know for the fact that back in 1995, in E3, they did technically announce that, but they haven't exactly fully released it in 1995, because otherwise that's, well, unlike the forms of the Sega 32X on the Sega announcements or something, that it just managed to able to get bombed from the start for the Sega 32X add-on, which you know what I mean, where it comes to likely, since Knuckles did already technically tackle through Knuckles Chaotix ever since at the very end of that, well, a pretty terrible year last year, which I think you guys should probably already know. So anyways, let's go ahead and explore through the cloudiest parts in, well, for the sake of the Gardens, kind of, world, so. And it looks like we've only got about 9 treasures left until we're able to, well, 100% everything in terms of the Great Cape Offensive and all that jazz, so. I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this too is that since, you know, it's about the fact that I've already explained about this since, Wednesday, that since I sadly no longer have, Super Mario Bros. 35, with, you know, with the one with the forms of the Battle Royale kind of stuff. Well, the reason why that is because I just simply give up on the repeated, exactly the same levels as, the first time I actually played them. And also another reason too, that, usually I just kind of got bored of it. Well, it's alright for starters, but for me, it doesn't look like it's gonna able to actually last for very long. Especially noticeable about the fact that it wasn't until likely 2 months' time, that particular game will be no longer gonna be able to be on the list on the eShop. So I thought to myself, yeah, I think I just kind of give up on that game now. Especially, although, don't get me wrong, it is a cool idea for able to have 35 players for the Super Mario Bros. Game, which I appreciate about that. But, however though, I'm just getting sick of, like, repeated levels whenever I go through, like, you know, through special battles, or especially noticeable with 35 player battle and all that jazz, which that might be seems the case for most of you out there. And also speaking of such though, is that I no longer have certain games. Specifically, let's start with the Master System first, the Sega Master System. I no longer have The Lion King on the Master System. The only reason being for that is because, well, I found that game okay on the Master System, but the Mega Drive / the Super Nintendo version is more superior in my opinion because of rigid colors and also fun, fast, frantic gameplay. Whilst the forms of the Master System version is alright, but usually, unfortunately though, is the fact that in the Master System version on specifically The Lion King on the Master System is that since it only came out in the European countries, so this meaning about the fact that unfortunately though we have to deal with the forms of 50Hz mode, which unlike the American version does manage to able to get 60Hz mode, which actually runs really fast and well. But usually, sometimes that most Master System games just never saw light of day in America or Japan. Like, for example, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic the Hedgehog Chaos, and I believe also Sonic Spinball. And I believe Tom and Jerry the movie, the actual game, not the movie, because the movie in 1992 was terrible. And you know what I mean. And also another game I no longer have, which there are, well, let's get on to the forms of the next category, which is, well, let's just say the Xbox 360. I no longer have myself Lego Indiana Jones The Original Adventures, because, although, don't get me wrong, I had a good time back then, but I'm just not very good at certain puzzle gimmicks for Indiana Jones game on the Lego format, because, well, the only thing I honestly still remember is, of course, the Raiders of the Lost Ark during the course of the beginning opening sequence, but that's about it. And especially noticeable that I think to me though that the only Lego game I always enjoy is, of course, Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga for the Xbox 360. And because of that, though, the Skywalker Saga is going to be approaching until this year, which I'm really hoping I can able to try to get that at some point. Either the ones on the Switch, or the Xbox One, or Xbox Series X. Now, I know you guys are going to say, why are you able to actually say Xbox One or Xbox Series X? I know it sounds a bit crazy to say this, but hopefully when the actual Xbox Series X will be able to be back in stock at some point or another, I might try to able to get the Xbox Series X, because in addition to able to play, you know, Xbox Series X stuff, but also, get this, it does have backwards compatibility with some Xbox original games and some Xbox 360 stuff, but the majority is the Xbox One. And because of that though, I might try to able to get the Series X for that front. Originally I was gonna able to try to get PlayStation 5, but it's way too enormous. And plus, in addition to that, I don't think it's gonna fit in my room, because otherwise it will just manage to be the most heaviest console I've ever gonna be seeing. In fact, let me know in the comments below of what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, quick edit right there because I managed to able to fetch a drink here, so I must admit that I do apologize for that. So anyway, let me know in the comments below of which one of those next generation of consoles you're about to be getting at some point during this year, assuming they're able to actually bring the actual stockings back. Like either the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, so let me know in the comments, because I'd like to hear your thoughts about it. Especially noticeable about the fact that, well, eventually at some point that, honestly, there's not much else I can honestly try to talk about. Aside from, likely, some other things I'd like to discuss upon, but still. But anyway, though, speaking of such, though, is the fact that, another one of those games I no longer have for our collection, which there are, both on the Wii, and that was the forms of, well, Epic Mickey the original, as well as Epic Mickey 2, The Power of 2. I know what you're thinking about the fact that why did you get rid of those two games anyway? Let me tell you for one front, I find these two games boring. I mean, aesthetically speaking, it's alright. I mean, just make it a little bit more of a darker Disney game and stuff like that, which I honestly appreciated. However, though, I'm not a big fan of the actual, the quest system in Epic Mickey, the original. Plus, it has a leniency, which unlike the any other 3D platformers, like let's just say, for example, Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, and also Donkey Kong 64. Those games are all about exploration, which meaning about the fact you can able to gather certain collectibles and all that stuff. But for Epic Mickey, it does slightly similar. However, though, when it comes to lead you to certain like screen projectors or something like that, oh my god, I totally forgot that it's linear, which sometimes it actually leads me to the different multiple endings, if depending on what playthroughs you're going to be going into, and, well, I'm just not a big fan of that, one of those concepts in between. And as for Epic Mickey 2, pretty much just, well, the second game is easily the most unpolished games in terms of the Epic Mickey series. Although, there's one Epic Mickey game I would love to keep, and that is the Forms of Power of Illusion for the 3DS. Why? Because it reminds me of so much of the Sega games, mainly with Castle of Illusion and Land of Illusion from the Master System / Game Gear days, which I think I honestly don't mind about that at all, because those are the only games we fondly remembered, especially notable with Mickey Mania as well, which those are the timeless games, including, you know, Magical Quest trilogy for the Super Nintendo. But you know, you get the idea for that point, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, Power of Illusion I always cared about because it reminds me of so much of the Sega Mickey games from the past. And, while the backtracking might be a bit tedious on the 3DS version, or the 3DS game rather, but at least you can able to actually play on the go, so at least that's the only good option. So, but for the Epic Mickey 1 and Epic Mickey 2, I just got bored of it. Although, the music is alright, but unfortunately though, the gameplay doesn't usually match up to me anyway. Especially noticeable because, well, sometimes I swear that my nunchuck were able to actually get distorting at times, which that seems a little bit illogical side of things though, which is usually becomes a little bit more of apparency when it comes to forms of nunchucks these days, but either way, let's just, enough about that little chibi chapper, and we actually got all the treasures in the whole entire The Great Cave Offensive. And the final treasure we got is, of course, the Triforce, which is actually the Legend of Zelda item. And which makes sense, because even then, since we are in 2021, this meaning about the fact that the Legend of Zelda series will be 35 years old this year, so I can't even believe that we're actually getting there for the sake of the actual hypeness again. So anyways, let's take on new forms of the final boss in the Great Cave Offensive, which is of course Wham Bam Rock. And basically, I just always get myself my Yo-Yo copy ability because, to me though, Yo-Yo is actually a really cool copy ability, which it's kind of a shame that particular copy ability doesn't make a return, but it wasn't until, I'm presuming in Star Allies were able to bring that, copy ability back, because of the forms of trying to able to bring back the previous enemies, or even previous foes, from the past or something, which, I know it has been a while since I actually did manage to play Kirby Star Allies, because I'm recently still playing through Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for some online matches on my own time for the Switch. But anyway, let's go ahead and just take those hands down. It doesn't matter what hands you're going to be taking down, and once you deal with enough hits on him, then basically that pretty much takes care of Wham Bam Rock. And once we're done with that, we can hit on to the final minecart segment, and basically we can able to have a nice little chill out ride, and eventually when you get all the way to the left, well, basically this will lead you back to the very beginning of the entire the Great Cave Offensive kind of stuff, and basically, well, after we go for a lot of those elevators, as you can see, and that way we can able to hit on to the left and hop onto the Warp Star, well, after we deal with this part first. And, well, we hit onto the Warp Star and we can just simply get the heck out of here. And then watch the ending in the process, which, Either way though, it plays exactly like it forms how it does it on the Super Nintendo version, like to simply bust these rocks out, and we finally freed from that particular familiar cave. So yeah, pretty swell. And also, much like the Super Nintendo version, is the fact that in the credit sequence in the Great Cave Offensive, obviously it tells us what these treasures that you've got, such as the gold medal, gold coin, whip, and crystal ball, and lucky cat, samurai sword, screw attack, and also E-Crow candy, phantom mask, starstone, beast's fang, bandana, and Season's Hearts, Dime, Glass Slipper, and you name the rest. So, I'm very glad that I managed able to actually play this particular game again, because it has been quite an interesting ride. Aside from some couple of treasures that can be like, easy to miss, or sometimes impossible to get, but apart from those side of things though, I had a really good time on this particular mode as well. But hey, at least it's something, alright? Oh yeah, one thing I should probably mention about this as well is that, you know what that particular Kong barrel that we've able to actually got? It does say, DK, which is actually inspired by the Donkey Kong games, which, to be more specifically, the Donkey Kong Country games. And also, as I said, that particular Koopa shell right there, that is actually a renamed, kind of stuff, ever since on the Super Nintendo version, just normally calls it, the Turtle Shell, which, that seems pretty swell, I have to say. And, well, looks like we got done 4 games, and it looks like we still got whole ways to go, especially noticeable, we're not exactly at the halfway point of the entire Kirby Superstar Ultra just yet, because, well, otherwise, then we still got a whole lot of things to go through. Which is especially true for the sake of, you know, certain remakes as far as I'm concerned, so... Oh, excuse me for a second there. Sorry about that, it's just that my, legs gets a bit achy at points, especially noticeable what I always have to do with, the most uncomfortable, method for me to do, you know, recording sessions alike, but either way though, that's what I honestly trying to say about the fact that, yeah, you know what I mean. So, and it looks like we had a grand total of 9,999,990 gold, which I don't know in the Super Nintendo version does manage to able to have some significant differences when it comes to the forms of that particular price or the amount of gold we're going to be collecting, which I can assure that might be seems the case. So, and just like on the Super Nintendo version, once you got every single treasure, then you get yourselves a congratulations screen. So yeah, that's always swell. Especially noticeable about the fact that, well, you'll be rich by then. So hopefully you would be able to, you know, get something new for Kirby for the sake of this year. So I'm really hoping that's to be the case. So, I get the feeling that the game's kind of lagging a little bit, which is, I do apologize for that, which, either way, let's move on, and it looks like we can now play Revenge of Meta Knight. So, I guess we should probably end things off here, so join me next time on Let's Play Kirby Superstar Ultra, is that we're going to be hit on to Revenge of Meta Knight. And the start difficulty for that is 4 stars, so I'll see you guys until on Monday. Later, fellas.